Swalwell, Gonzalez, a rape academy. Liz, I guess Sexpest-Maxxing is a thing.
Sadly, I agree. And we're going to break it all down and explore how performative allyship can be a cover for creepy behavior and a reason we keep losing our reproductive rights.
Plus, Dr. April Lockley, medical director from the Miscarriage and Abortion Hotline, is here, and she's going to talk about how this hotline is a valuable resource when you're navigating pregnancy loss.
You know, here, we need more of these resources to be blasted out to the world, right?
Fuck yeah.
And to bring humor, rage, and exhale is comedian and musician Chrissa Sparkles.
Oh my God, Chrissa's Fuck Ice anthem became the soundtrack to anti-ice movements from Portland to DC, and she comes by to talk about her activism and what it's like to be ADHD Barbie and her hilarious new solo show, Delulu.
All this is coming up on the Feminist Buzzkills podcast, the show, and I never thought we'd say this, that is rooting for the Pope.
Oh my God, just this once?
Right, but
just now.
How do we not?
I'm Moji Alawodeyel, and that papal hype man is my co-host, Liz Winstead.
Oh my God, papal hype man is, that's a little intense. I'm
taking it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put it on a shirt. Papal hype man. Can you imagine me walking down the street with abortion access front on the back? Unbelievable. Folks, Moji and I woke up this week to see abortion access front mentioned in a DOJ report, all because a couple of years ago, we clocked some abortion clinic harass holes at J6.
And now we are named in some Keystone Klan investigation. And that investigation claims that abortion activists were in cahoots with Biden just to set up Christian do-gooders who are simply peacefully praying outside of clinics, as if that's what they do.
God, peacefully praying? You mean trapping patients actively miscarrying in their cars?
Yeah. And also, I mean, barricading clinic entrances where people can't get to their goddamn appointments.
I love that this administration has the unmitigated cojones to act like they even can identify someone peacefully praying. They wouldn't, they could not find somebody peacefully praying if they showed up dressed like Jesus and performed a triple bypass on them.
What, Liz?
I mean, you know what I'm talking about. I pulled it out of my ass, but I feel like it was an apt description given what we're talking about.
This investigation, it was brought by this weaponization working group. These were a bunch of henchmen Trump gathered hours after Pam Bondi was sworn in, and their main goal is to prosecute Trump's enemies and to appease the anti-abortion extremists who got him elected, essentially.
First of all, the weaponization group feels like every single person who's in Trump's orbit. But these are the people who brought all the shit against, like Tish James and Jack Smith and right, and the whole Biden administration writ large, basically, such garbage. And when I saw that we were named, I'm not going to lie, I was sort of bummed that if we're going to be called out by the FBI for anything, I wanted it to be under, Cruella No Chill, not her like replacement, like off-brand fascist Todd Blanche. I wanted a Pam Bondi call out.
Liz, they're so incompetent, right? This is just a sort of pulled together thing that presents itself as an investigation. We're using that word generously, honestly. It looks at like alleged bias from federal law enforcement, but really it just creates its own alternative facts. Remember that old chestnut? And creates a basis to terminate career servants for just doing their jobs that they've been doing for decades.
In this particular case, it's 23 anti-abortion extremists, and we've talked about our work on this podcast before. I've written op-eds about it. 23 anti-abortion extremists before Trump was elected were tried and convicted on face violations. And then just weeks, maybe in the first week even that Trump was, after he was inaugurated, he pardoned them all and then called for an investigation saying that Biden was in cahoots with abortion rights advocates, or I think he called us extremists or something, to punish religious people peacefully praying, like we said, outside of clinics.
And all we did was see what they were doing and have video of it, right? And then their juries of their peers, not us, juries of their peers heard the facts and they were like, this isn't a peaceful protest, because protests are lawful, right? But violence, blockades, and all the shit they were trafficking in, not lawful.
No. And so, like all these memos that, tried to frame all those people we mentioned, Tish James, I feel like we're kind of in good company, right?
Yes.
They just cherry pick through hundreds of like emails, and then they mischaracterized the facts of the case, disregarded multiple court rulings and jury verdicts that clearly and squarely convicted these people, and put it into this investigation that was 800 pages of literally fish wrap, ass wipe, nothing.
Just toilet paper, just trash, 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 trash.
And the thing that's so wild about it is the second that these pardons came down, like the pardons came down before the investigation, and the pardons came down without talking to any of the career folks who like knew the cases and who knew the history of anti-abortion violence, since like the 1970s. And it makes me so mad because one of the things they claim is that the FACE Act was used to silence religious people.
Which is not what it's used for at all. Actually,
No.
That's not its purpose at all. This was fully about violence. This was fully about blocking entrances so patients couldn't have the services they need. And it specifies, the FACE Act, that it does not prohibit freedom of expression. It does not prohibit peaceful praying. In fact, our side just monitors clinic activity for the records. We don't entrap them. We see what they're doing, and then we say, oh, that's what they're doing. We look. We use our eyes.
We use our eyes. And when they are violating the FACE Act, we bring charges, right? So just so you want to know how much monitoring we do to parse out, like we said, 23 cases went to trial and were convicted. But between 2020 and 2024, our side monitored over 470,000 documented cases of lawful picketing and prayer and protests. And people were like, this isn't charging anything. This is monitoring what's happening. And talking about the fact that 470,000 documented cases of people haranguing people and screaming at people while they go to the doctor is a whole nother podcast that we're not going to get to.
And something we should be mad about, but this is not what anyone was convicted of. They were convicted of blockading and stopping medical access.
That's right. And the thing that's such a mess is one of the things that they cited were that the violence against fake clinics was underreported because Biden was trying to ignore what the pro-abortion people, the violence they were committing. And that's just garbage. That, because we all know those places, aren't medical facilities.
I was going to say they don't do medicine. They don't do medicine.
And also they don't hold church services, but because they talk about religion in the lies that they give about abortion, they have some kind of coverage under the FACE Act, which is super sus. But also, sure, there was vandalism against those fake clinics. People spray painted, people threw Molotov cocktails, there was fires. It was vandalism, and it never happened during the day, and it never happened when people were there.
And there were enormous bounties to find the people who did them. They did the work. And also, part of this allegation that religious institutions were not protected, they actually were. There were like hundreds of cases brought against vandalism towards religious institutions. They just didn't use the FACE Act. There were other better tools that the DOJ decided they would use. So it wasn't even like this didn't happen at real religious institutions. It just wasn't FACE Act violations.
Your first clue in all of this, just to recap and move on, is the fact that just like January 6th, when he did a blanket pardon, and now we know that like 6 January 6ers have been like recharged on some kind of weird sexual predator shit. Many others have been recharged on other crimes. You blanket pardon a bunch of people. It's the same with to blanket pardon and not look at the cases is not justice. It's not anything other than I'm doing the bidding of this president. And now this president in this particular case is doing the bidding of the anti-abortion people who brung him to the White House. And it's really gross. And just to button on it, they've now invited a whole bunch of anti-abortion extremists who were victims of this to the White House this week to talk to them about what they went through. So we're going to see how this plays out. I'm sure there's going to be hearings. I'm sure they're going to bring people forth. Hopefully it will be none of us. We will be watching and we will keep you updated. So that was our Waking Up Tuesday to find out we've been name checked by the DOJ. Happy Friday, everybody. Let's move on. Moji, let's tell folks that we might desperately need their help very soon or always.
Listen, the DOJ might be looking at us, and what you can do to help, one of the steps you can do, Join our Patreon. That's right. Join our Patreon. You can get birthday shout outs. If you aren't already one, sign up. It's fantastic. You get birthday shout outs, you support great content, and you'll get very, very, very cool FBK merch and experiences.
And, you can be part of a Team AAF, Team FBK, free Moji, free Liz. Who knows if those shirts are going to have to come up. But the cool part really, in all seriousness about our Patreon is that when you donate to Patreon, all the pledges to Patreon go to not just the podcast, but all of our work at Abortion Access Front. So, you kind of want to be part of the cool club. You really do. And it's very easy. You just go to patreon.com/Feminist Buzzkills and ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching.
Speaking of activism, AAF offers many other opportunities to get active, and one of our favorites is our mutual aid program. It's called Adopt a Clinic. It is so awesome.
It's awesome. Adopt a Clinic is a great way for the public to support independent clinics, abortion funds, escort groups, and patients directly by ordering much-needed items from their wish lists.
So this week, we are showcasing Be at Peace abortion doulas in Arizona. This volunteer collective provides support to local patients, and what they need right now are more heating pads, blankets, and herbal tea for your patients.
And we'll link to that in the show notes. So much content. There was so much news this week. My head is bursting, and I did not plan on opening up with a DOJ situation, but here we are. And then it just kind of escalates. We're escalating. So, let's move on and get some quick hits and a steaming dump of this week's abortion news, Moj.
I mean, speaking of shits, the Heritage Foundation, they've dropped yet another turd in the punch bowls. They're big mad right now at Casey Means. She's RFK's wellness hack pick for Surgeon General. And they're mad because she has not straight up come out and said, fuck medication abortion.
Moji, it's so infuriating because they're not mad that she has like a weird supplement grift or has an expired medical license. Oh no. The Heritage Foundation is mad because she won't come out and debunk actual science that says medication abortion is safe. And they want her to lie, and she won't lie. Right? I'm not saying she's going to be on our side.
She won't.
But she's hedging, and they're really mad because they want her to be like, get that shit out now.
Did you catch RFK's latest recommendation?
Oh, God.
He said you could cure schizophrenia with a keto diet. That's right. No bread, no schizophrenia. So simple.
Wow. That is next level. That's the kind of shit where you're like, okay, so he spewed that this week. What would his clown Surgeon General recommend to make abortion pills safe? Take them with a raw milk chaser?
No, it would definitely be something like sunning your anus or like whale taint suppositories. They find the most absurd shit and call it medicine.
Always. Speaking of absurd and medicine, the state of Tennessee doing the most. This is really kind of unbelievable. The Tennessee State Senate passed a bill to fine abortion providers $1 million for mailing pills to Tennessee, and you get that $1 million if they can prove the abortion was completed.
This is like Texas. This is another one of those bounty hunting stitches, this digging into people's personal lives, this, checking for people's meta histories.
It just seems so creepy because the news as of late and this week on Hyperdrive has really just been like men trying to live out their depraved misogynistic fantasies through legislation because they don't have the skills to write a David Lynch movie, basically.
Listen, what's next for us, guys? Funding Flock to make an IUD.
Oh my
Sending
God.
ice to protect the uterine wall. What else do they have? There's probably something else I can't even think of right now.
How about a rape academy?
Ew.
That story popped into my world last night, and I don't read Rape Academy stories at 3:30 in the morning. And if you haven't,
that's a thing that'll interrupt your sleep list.
Holy moly, Rocky. If you haven't seen this, CNN is reporting there's an online rape academy. Like they're calling it a rape academy where men upload pictures and videos of themselves having sex with their wives who they have drugged and are having sex with these women against their will, and they're not participating at all in any of this.
When I read this story, the first thing I thought was, is this just a rebrand of Trump University?
I mean, that is a good thought. It's one I didn't have, and now I'm going to not stop having it.
You're welcome, Liz. You're welcome.
So 62 million views in 1 month on this story. And here's the sick part. It's all user-generated content. So the site itself is not liable because it's not creating the content because of the 1996 Telecommunications Act.
I just want to clarify, user-generated content is basically these men are doing it, right? 62 million men are doing this.
Or want to.
And one of the things they do to make sure that like a woman is properly passed out is they do an eyelid test. They lift up her eyelid to see if she's fully blacked out. And then if they do, they continue to have sex with her against her will, against her consciousness.
There's so much, but I just can't get past the phrase rape academy. Like men are literally deciding they need a specialty education in raping their wives.
That's literally the worst prep school ever, Liz.
And also the worst study group. It is just...
This is why we choose the bear.
We choose the bear every time. Every time we choose the bear. I think that we should just call this like Sexpest-Maxxing, for real. Because this whole show, it's kind of devolved into Sexpest-Maxxing. And we're going to continue, hate to break it to you, because we cannot go without talking about Eric Swalwell.
Ooh, sex pest du jour.
Oh, and just like the reaction and how honestly specific Democratic behaviors that involve us being pressured to keep quiet, not just about like sex pests on our side, but like the other fights for our emancipation. Like we've been shot down so many times trying to just fight for our own thing by fake allies. And I firmly believe that partially the reason we lost Roe was because we were pressured from fucking allies who told us to shut up about certain things so we could get what we wanted. And it really bugs the shit out of me. So
I'm looking at you, Ezra Klein.
I mean, honestly, right? But have more pro-life people in the party, like all of his bullshit. But so I was just, vacationing over the weekend when the story started pouring in, Moji. And I'm curious. I haven't really talked a lot to you about this, but like, what were your first thoughts when you saw like this news?
Honestly, when I read the victims' stories, what really got me was the consistency. Like all of their stories are like, oh, he was a good guy. He was helping me out. Then we went out for drinks. And then I had one drink and then I had too many drinks. And then I kind of felt groggy. And then I woke up in a hotel room with either evidence that he'd had intercourse with me or naked.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, that's your game. That's your courtship. You just get a girl drunk and take her inside. And also what got me, and this always gets me when we find out powerful men have been doing this consistently, is the hubris, right? He had done this, the allegations stretch back 7-8 years. And even knowing these allegations existed, even knowing that he'd sent women text messages with like, oh, I'm sorry, I hope you had fun. He still thought that it would be perfectly fine to run for governor in California.
Yeah. And when the story broke, I'm still kind of in disbelief at how much demonizing I saw of the women who broke it. And I just want to name check Mrs. Frazzled, along with lawyer activist Cheyenne Hunt and attorney Annika Albrecht, because they were the ones that brought this forward. But the hate they got, they were called like Republican operatives and Russian spies and all this shit. And I was just really mad at Democrats trying to just protect him, being like, we're waiting for the facts. We're waiting for proof. And I was like, oh, really? I didn't hear you waiting for the facts on Pete Hegseth. Like that was very clear to you, but somehow this is quote unquote your guy. It really bummed me out because it was just like, it was too many people. It was too consistent. And you have to be consistent. You can't pick sides. A sex pest is a sex pest is a sex pest.
Is a sex pest, regardless of their political affiliation. And honestly, I don't want to be affiliated with a Democrat who is also out here assaulting women. I want no parts of that.
No, I don't either. And I remember, I'm old enough to remember when the Bill Clinton thing happened. And I had so many second wave feminists screaming at me about like, why are we okay with Bill Clinton abusing his power with this young intern? And they would be like, stop it and shut up. And Hillary and Linda Tripp and all of these people who were just demonizing the women who questioned Bill Clinton and demonizing the power dynamic. And it felt like some of that old guard traffic.
No, it was absolutely that. Also, when you hear about like these allegations came out and the brave women, the brave influencers and lawyers that you talked about had been basically beating the drum well before the CNN article came out that kind of broke the story. But once it came out, all of these other members of the DC community, the other legislators, other writers saying like, oh yeah, it was an open secret that he was a womanizer.
And staffers and stuff. And that's the part where I'm like, I just want to punch all the walls because we have got to, I don't know who to trust now, right? Who knew? Who was just keeping a whisper campaign going? Who was doing that? Because that's just gross.
It seems like everybody was doing it, Liz. It seems like everybody was just being quiet about it. And it goes back to what you were saying about not knowing who to trust, right? Because we were told that he was a good guy. We were told that he was progressive, right? We were told that he was going to be helpful. And even the women talking about their allegations were like, oh, he was helping me with my career. He was helping me with my business. But he wasn't, right? He was raping them, right?
Yeah. And you know, here's the thing that we never want to talk about, right? Is there are truly good guys. And then there is a real existence of performative good guys who overcompensate in their allyship and their behavior to cover up for being creepy.
Yeah. And then the whiplash comes and you're like, oh shit, I thought this was my ally, but now I have a dick pic in my phone. I didn't want this. I didn't ask for this.
You prey upon people young in their career. They don't want to make waves. They don't want somebody to think at 22, they're going to come forward. No one will ever hire them again. All of the shit that goes along with it is so fucking awful. And I just want to, while you are probably thinking, what does this have to do with abortion? First of all, anything that has to do with somebody stealing your bodily autonomy, it all ties together if we're talking about reproductive justice. But the truth is, the reason that these big sex pest stories make it onto our podcast so much is because, especially in this case, I cannot tell you how many times throughout trying to advocate for abortion access that these same good guys told us to shut up about abortion because people aren't ready for it and you could lose the election. And this is about building a broader thing so we can get to it. Well, they never fucking got to it in the 40 years that I've worked at it. And it makes me feel really angry to have been told over and over again, abortion's a wedge issue. We have to focus on these other things. When we've seen in elections, abortion always wins, even when candidates don't. And I'll never forget when I made this transition from sort of being a political generalist and comedian to wanting to horn in on abortion. I had a guy who worked in nonprofits say to me, I can't believe you're going to move over to the feminist ghetto. And I was like, wow.
Feminist ghetto? Wow, where 50% of the population lives? Thanks, dude.
Yeah. And so it's just a reminder that our full emancipation depends on people of all genders invested in it.
And it depends on us being able to fully have participation in society, and not being able to control your body is having limited participation in society.
Yes. So that's why we wanted to bring it all in and tie it all together and just also have our feelings about it, quite frankly, and have our feelings with you. But I think this might be a perfect time to pivot to our guest.
We should.
Because when we're talking about having agency and ownership over your body, I think I really love our guest that we have today, because one of the things we've learned from this story, and also from like people in Minneapolis fighting ICE, that the people who exposed Swalwell, the people who stood up against ICE, we realize we have to rely on ourselves, right? Yeah. To take charge, to tell our truth, and to stand with each other.
And this is why I'm so excited to talk to our next guest, because she believes in that, right? She has, in her work as a physician, it is important to her to empower patients at every turn, and also to understand that like no one, not even medical professionals, like no one but us knows our bodies better than us.
That's right. And one way she's making sure that we all have tools to keep trusting ourselves in our medical decisions is in her role as the medical director of the Miscarriage and Abortion Hotline.
Liz, we know that people are self-managing their abortions. People have miscarriage questions and they may need support. They may need information. And it's really great for us to have an opportunity to amplify this hotline and basically give her an opportunity to share this amazing resource with all of us.
So without further ado, please welcome the medical director of the Miscarriage and Abortion Hotline, Dr. April Lockley.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to the pod. So we're going to jump right into it. And to start, Dr. Lockley, will you tell us about you and what brought you to your work?
Great. So thanks so much for having me. I am here in Harlem, New York. I'm a mom to a toddler. I'm a family medicine doctor, abortion advocate, And I just, as a family medicine doctor, love taking care of people, love figuring out what's going on in their lives, and realized through my training that knowing the ins and out of abortion care was super important. Unfortunately, abortion care has been siloed from healthcare in many aspects. And so I've decided to dedicate my expertise and support to supporting folks, not only if they wanted to continue a pregnancy, but also if they decide to have an abortion.
I think it's really important to talk about that siloing piece. And I'd love for you to talk about, there's like historical things around the siloing of abortion. And also, if you have any thoughts on how we work towards de-siloing that, if that's a word, but I'd really just love to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's really been intentional to really take care out of the hands of community. Since the beginning of history, people have been taking care of themselves in communities, specifically with midwives in communities here in the US, especially Black granny midwives. And unfortunately, once the quote unquote formal medical establishment started, white men in particular, as we know, history of this country, took over healthcare. And so that included reproductive healthcare, and laws were put in place to criminalize midwives from doing this very important holistic work. And so the model of care became really more medicalized out of the community. And that has obviously translated into abortion being medicalized and separated from healthcare due to abortion stigma and the lack of, really having that community wholesome, holistic care models in this country that have been overtaken by capitalism, unfortunately.
In thinking about getting us back to community care and how that works, I think it's the perfect way to talk about how a hotline can support community healthcare and what that looks like. So talk a little bit about what the hotline is and what it does and who it serves.
Great. So the Miscarriage and Abortion Hotline, or the M+A Hotline, was started in 2019 by 2 primary care physicians so that people would have a medical provider to talk to with information and support during their miscarriage or abortion. And as I was just talking about, we've known that people in community have always taken care of themselves without the help of, formal medical providers. But we knew that there were times in which someone may have questions that they want to talk to a medical professional, and they might end up in the ER, where unfortunately their question might not be answered, or even worse, they might have the police called on them for their pregnancy outcomes. And this was happening even before the Dobbs decision. And so these unfortunate outcomes of the police being called were especially true for people of color, young folks, and LGBTQ community. And so really the catalyst for the hotline was that although abortion access has never been great in this country, we knew that things were likely going to get worse during the first Trump administration. And so the hotline was really started as a harm reduction model to meet people where they are, so that people would have a safe place to turn for miscarriage and abortion information and support.
I love that you brought up criminalization and the ER, and that people go there looking for help and they don't get the help that they wanted, and often can end up with a new and terrible situation. And one of the things that makes your hotline unique is that the people who you get on the line are medical professionals who will answer. So can you tell us specifically what kind of support you give to callers? And do you stay on the line with people if they go through their pregnancy loss?
We are staffed by dozens of amazing volunteers who are doctors, midwives, nurse practitioners, physician assistants. We support people in both English and Spanish. People can call us or text us. We're open every day, and we have been so since November of 2019. And so the support we provide, we really just meet people where they are. And so we will support people throughout their journey. Some people call or text us back every 30 minutes to an hour asking more questions about what to expect or what time they should take their next misoprostol dose. For people who have really, really extensive emotional support needs, thankfully, we're in community with some other wonderful organizations such as Repro Care and Exhale Pro Voice, who can really provide some of that more intensive emotional support that someone may need. But yeah, we really will just answer anyone's questions throughout the process for as long as they need us.
So you are like the post office.
Rain or sleet.
Rain, sleet, snow.
Dark of night.
Dark of night. The Postal Service. You guys stay and help people. And that sounds fantastic.
Exactly.
Before we move on, I would love you to talk a little bit about something that we should say every day, 24 hours a day, twice on Sunday. And that is talking about why abortion and miscarriage management are together on your hotline.
Great question. Yes, our name is very clear, the Miscarriage and Abortion Hotline. And so, as we already, discussed a little bit, abortion care has been siloed from healthcare for decades. And so when most people think about abortion, they think of going to an abortion clinic that's, separate than where you see your primary care doctor or your OBGYN even. And so as a family medicine doctor, obviously I know and see on a daily basis that people don't live lives in a vacuum or in silos. And one of my favorite quotes is from Audre Lorde, who says that there's no thing as a single issue struggle because we do not live single issue lives. And so that really encompasses how I feel and approach this work. And so people, they get pregnant, they continue their pregnancy and parent, they have miscarriages, they have abortions, they're all interlinked. And so it was important for us, for people to know that we were here to support them no matter how their pregnancy ends. Unfortunately, we often get calls going back to the ER where people will say, I went to the ER, I was told I'm having a miscarriage, and they didn't tell me anything else. They just discharged me and said, since I'm not bleeding heavily, I'm fine. And I don't have any insurance and I don't know what to do next. And we know in this country, if you don't have insurance, your options for getting great care are limited. And so it's really sad that people don't get the appropriate information, support, and care, but that's exactly why the hotline was founded, with the intention to envision the world that we want to see. And so where everyone is supported through a miscarriage or an abortion, no matter their zip code or ability to pay. And so that's an important reason why we include both miscarriage and abortion care.
I'm not a doctor, but I also find it interesting, especially recently, that people who've experienced miscarriage will look at their records and be like, it said I had a spontaneous abortion. And I feel like people don't recognize often that they are physically the same thing.
Exactly. You said that example perfectly, because we do get those calls. And now with all the legal changes, people get nervous. They're like, I'm in Texas and now my paperwork says I had an abortion. What does that mean? And so, explaining that to folks. And yeah, the care is all generally the same. The emotions behind a miscarriage or an abortion can be the same. And so, yeah, just supporting people no matter, what the outcome of their pregnancy is.
So if we can drill down to some specifics, what are some common questions that you get at the hotline from callers?
Yeah, so there are typically kind of 3 different buckets of common questions that we receive. And so we get questions before someone is having an abortion. That conversation will typically start by saying, I live in Texas. How can I access abortion pills? And what can I expect during the process? So we go through that with folks. Then we get another bucket of questions while people are actively having an abortion, typically really questions like, I'm having these side effects from misoprostol. Is that normal? Or how much bleeding I'm having? Is that normal? And then finally, we get questions about how to know if they're no longer pregnant or what they should kind of look out for after the abortion is complete. Often people spend, they tell us they spent hours kind of Googling and really trying to figure out what's going on with them. And, there's so much misinformation, lies, abortion stigma out there. And so people are just very worried often. And usually we're really able to just reassure people that everything went as expected, as normal, because the abortion process is so safe and that they're okay and that they're no longer pregnant. Really, the most common miscarriage questions that we get are people wanting to know their options for treating their miscarriage or asking if they need any type of follow-up care after their miscarriage is complete. So most of the questions kind of fall in those areas. And most of the time we're able to reassure folks that everything is going just fine.
It's so important for folks to be able to talk to medical professionals, especially like you said, because when Moji and I were prepping for the interview, one of the things that we always want to know, because we are working in the stigma busting business, is how many of the questions do you get are ones that are, there's so much misinformation that's blasted everywhere by the anti-abortion movement. How much of the sort of false narratives around abortion are you getting people asking questions because they're worried about that, because that's the thing they see most?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's always heartbreaking when we get calls from people or texts from people who it's very clear they went to a crisis pregnancy center or even just have internalized like abortion stigma, and they feel like they have to justify their reason for their abortion, or they read that the abortion will make them infertile, or that they'll have long-term health consequences. We do continue to be in a health crisis in which folks aren't able to get care in a lot of healthcare spaces. So it is understandable on top of the lies that anti-abortion folks spread. But we just continue to fight back about these false narratives because in general, abortion care is very, very, very safe. And that's another reason I'm very grateful for abortion storytellers, for example, who are out there open, sharing their abortions, kind of demystifying the process. And so that an abortion isn't so much of a mystery as it is now, that allows the anti-abortion folks to overrun media and the internet with this false information and lies.
One of the things that Liz and I talk about a lot is we're just going back to what we kind of started in our conversation, that people will go to the ER because they just don't know what to expect. You read about the pills, you read about, oh, you just take these, one pill and then 4 other pills, and then you can pass a pregnancy. And people will go to the ER like not clear what is an appropriate amount of
pain or bleeding,
cramping, discomfort. And actually, I'm just going to go too deep a dive, but this report that came from the Ethics and Public Policy Center essentially looked at all of the records of people who went to ERs, even if they didn't get treated because everything was fine, and used that to say, oh, the abortion pill is dangerous. They don't know what to expect. So I just wonder, what information is important for pregnant people to have to help folks avoid potential criminalization?
I love when people call us before they start the process, because I'm like, great, we have an opportunity to really help and support you. So again, you don't end up in a situation where you're scared and not sure what's happening. I mean, one, people should really trust their bodies. Again, this kind of system where we've created where people really feel like they have to turn to the medical professional because the medical professional knows best isn't true. You have to trust your body. But in regards to the pain and bleeding, there is such a wide range. And so we try to prepare people as best as possible for that wide range. Some people call us because they're not in enough pain. They're bleeding heavily, but they're like, I'm not in serious pain. Is something wrong? And we're like, no, great. Everything's going okay. So yeah, just really kind of being prepared ahead of time with pain medications, specifically ibuprofen, heating pads, snacks, water. If you have a support person that you want there that can be there for you, you can take a bath during the process, really just kind of being prepared as possible. And it might not be as bad as you expect, but you might be in severe pain for several hours, but you will get through it. Just knowing that you will get through it and that there's these resources there to support you during that process. So you are not alone if you don't want to be alone.
And I feel like, too, we just, in the course of our abortion storytelling and talking to people and people who've been using medication abortion, so many patients have told us they were not prepared, or people didn't really tell them. And we don't talk about our bodies in America at all, to your point. And so I think that we don't understand how much blood is fine. Like, I feel also, too, like, if you're shedding your uterine lining, it's like tissue and there's stuff. I wish that we would do a better service of just saying, yeah, it's kind of messy. Think about having a period all at one sitting. It's going to look different and feel different. And I just wish that we wouldn't sugarcoat it sometimes, which I feel like advocates will be like, for everybody, it's like having a little period. And it's like, except for when it's not.
Yes, exactly. I was just at a conference, an abortion conference, and I made this exact point. Yeah, we need to be realistic. There is a wide range of experiences. It can be very painful. You can have heavy bleeding, big clots, all those things, but you will get through it.
Yeah, I'm glad that you think that, because it is something that Moji and I are always like, you know what? Sometimes it's not a clump of cells. Sometimes it's not stuff. Like, let's talk about what it is, because the one thing that we need to know in our hearts is that it's a moral choice that somebody makes for themselves.
Yes.
So all the stuff around that is a good heads up.
April, it was fantastic talking to you. I really am excited about the Miscarriage and Abortion Hotline. I'm so glad that you guys have been doing this incredible work. Is there anything that we haven't addressed that you would like our listeners to know about the Miscarriage and Abortion Hotline?
I would just say, I know things seem bleak. We're all paying more for our groceries, rent. People are losing access to human rights, bodily autonomy, but we're here to resist. We're not going to comply. There are options for people no matter where they live, no matter how many weeks pregnant they are. The website plancpills.org is a directory of all the ways in which people can access safe and legitimate abortion pills, including for free. And then people can get support with us through the M+A Hotline, through calling and texting us. Like I already mentioned, there's other great organizations like Repro Care and Exhale Pro Voice. There's the Repro Legal Helpline if someone needs to talk to a lawyer during or after their abortion. And so people don't have to go through a miscarriage or abortion alone. People not only deserve to survive, but to thrive. And so please check out these resources for support. Tell a friend, tell 10 friends. Yeah, we're here for everyone.
And we're going to put all of those resources right at your very fingertips, literally, which I think is awesome. April, thank you so much for the work you do and for giving of your time in a way that is so meaningful to so many people, and for returning our bodies literally to ourselves and reminding us that we know the most and we know best. So thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you, April. You can reach out to the Miscarriage and Abortion Hotline at mahotline.org, or you can call or text in English or Spanish, 1-833-246-2632. That's 833-246-2632. As always, these stories and information will be in our show notes, and you can find the best, most up-to-the-minute resources on accessing abortion care and funding for your care on our website, aafront.org. Our Charlie chatbot at the bottom right will walk anyone anywhere in the country through their options and resources for abortion. Now remember, we do this show because this info is not out there in the world and is certainly not given enough attention in the media. So please, please, please help us spread the word by liking and loving and subscribing and giving us a 5-star rating and a handy. I don't know, that's excessive, but every bit helps so we can reach more people and get the word out there.
That's absolutely right. And now, tone shift.
Woo! The party game that is faster than Monopoly and more fun than Taboo. It's 6 Degrees of Abortion. And this is when I'm going to take a story from the news, and Liz will have 6 chances to link it to abortion. I'm going to see if I can stump her this week. Let's see. So, staying in the theme of sex pests.
Are we? I thought we were getting out of that theme.
It's a take on it. So ChatGPT has shelved, but for a while was thinking about allowing adult content. And I thought about it. I link it to Sex Pest because I was like, oh, maybe if they had AI, they would not attack us. But we know they know how to multitask. They just would somehow find a way to make AI sexy and then also still find chances to assault women and people who don't want to be assaulted. So Liz, if you can, in 6 tries or more, link Sam Altman, the founder of ChatGPT, to abortion.
I mean, I remember watching a roundtable with Sam Altman and Zuckerberg and Tim Cook and Trump and Musk
and Teal.
So every single one of those fuckers, Peter Thiel's got a app,
whole uterine app.
A whole uterine app. Mark Zuckerberg is suppressing abortion content. This was an easy one, but every one of his garbage friends, and probably him, is involved in a sinister plot to destroy access to abortion or information to abortion or anything else you can think of. So
you got it in 1 or 6, Liz.
Sam Altman to every fuckface,
to nefarious
every tech bro in the manosphere.
Exactly.
I win, or do I lose?
We lose. All of us lose. We all lose.
Yeah, for sure.
Fuck ice, we ain't gonna play nice. Oh, you wanna fight? Keep sucking daddy's dick on the far right. Fuck ice, we ain't gonna play nice. Oh, you wanna fight? Keep sucking daddy's dick on the far right. Fuck ice, 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 ice. Ice.
That was the anthem of so many of my Minnesota neighborhood defenders this winter. And our guest is the writer and singer of not only that song, but so many amazing musical responses to the current fuckery that is our world.
She's a comedian, musician, and internet superstar, currently touring Delulu, her hilarious solo show. Please welcome Chrissa Sparkles.
Hey, Chrissa.
Hello.
Hi, Liz. Hi, Moji. How are you guys?
We're so good. And I have to say, I'm just super excited to talk to you because I live half of my year in Brooklyn and I live the other half of my year in Minneapolis. And I just got back from Minneapolis, and your ICE song was the literal anthem for so many of us there to keep us going on the streets and stuff. And then when I went down a rabbit hole of all of your videos, I became just obsessed with you. So for those who maybe have heard the ICE song, maybe have not, maybe don't know your work, let folks know, how would you describe your character and your music?
Liz, thank you so much. It really means the world to me to hear that people are utilizing my music in this way as a part of their act of resistance. And I think as a comedian, as a musician and artist, I don't think it's something I could have ever planned, but it's absolutely beyond what I could have ever hoped for my art. So thank you for sharing that with me. I would say I feel like I've become an accidental political pop star. I tend to have a very girly pop approach to my art in a sense that I really like to catch people off guard with how I present myself. And I like to teeter between the lines of, you know, kind of presenting in this girly, feminine, kind of like everything is absolutely okay kind of way when like we're really just falling apart on the inside. And I think that's something a lot of people relate to with how I've, you know, kind of pursued comedy and kind of executed my music and my comedy sketches over the years. So it's very much giving Disney princess processing generational trauma at the same time is how I would describe my work.
That is perfect.
I find it like a really beautiful kind of hyper femininity, but it's like not really for the guys. It's really for the girls, you know?
I kind of like it's one part politics, one part should be embroidered on a throw pillow. Like every single lyric that comes out of your face, I feel like I want to have on my couch, just surrounding me with the words.
Oh my God, thank you. That I am honored. Should I get a brand deal with Home Goods right now?
Yes.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
So, Chrissa, you actually weren't always going in on the world. I mean, you absolutely have done this sort of feminine, saccharine, but very like kind of grounded, or just like, oh no, everything's great. Like you described it, everything's great, but like it's not. But at some point you decided to just go in hard with your fuck ICE, fuck fascist work. And we really get excited when people get to their full out of fucks moments. So when did you run out of fucks and go hard and decide that you're going to just write these songs that take on, in some people's opinion, controversial subjects?
Moji, how much time do we have?
10 minutes.
We're going to keep it real short and sweet. You know, I actually came up as a musical theater person and did on-camera hosting for a really long time. And I actually had a clothing line for 8 years. And so when I shut that down a couple of years ago and really made the decision to lean into doing comedy, I think the first big breakout for me was doing these Barbie sketches that went kind of viral around the Barbie movie era back in 2023. I was like, hi, I'm Filipino Barbie, or I'm ADHD Barbie. And through the guise of Barbie, it slowly gave me permission to say the things I wanted to say out loud, but through this character of a perfect doll. And I think last year, I was really struggling to find where I wanted my musical comedy to go because I made a lot of music processing my divorce, and I've been developing my one-woman show and doing stand-up. And I think when the ICE raids started happening, I'm in Los Angeles, and it was happening in the heart of my city. People were being snatched away, like just blocks away from me. And something that I actually mentioned in my solo show that feels very prevalent to why this hits so hard for me is because I have immigrant parents. I have Filipino immigrant parents. And to even see people in my neighborhood who are being tormented by ICE and seeing my friends in the streets protesting, getting arrested, it really did a number on my mental health. And I reached a point where I just couldn't stand by and do nothing. And it felt really trivial to make a song like Fuck Ice. It wasn't something I really set out to do, but my God, I was so frustrated. I was so angry and beside myself. I didn't know what to do other than, I was in the shower to cool off and I was like, fuck ice, we ain't gonna play nice. And this like little chant started playing in my head. And I was like, is this crazy to turn this into a song, but like Charlie XCX style? And
It was perfect.
yeah, but I think as someone who's been like a chronic people pleaser my whole life and being raised by immigrant parents who taught me, to fly under the radar, do everything you can to be a model citizen. It's not like, oh, let's challenge the government is like, not on our be a good US citizen bingo card, So I feel like making the song was really challenging a lot of the beliefs that I was raised with, but also ancestrally and generationally, I feel like as a Filipino woman and as an Asian American woman, a woman of color, the silence that we've had to endure for generations and making the song felt like I was breaking that cycle. And I felt mortified sharing it with people. It was probably the most vulnerable thing I've ever written, even though it's like literally 4 lines. But it really took a life of its own. And it's been really beautiful to see how people have used it as a way to advocate for their communities and to show up. And I think as a musical comedian who thinks like, oh, my dating life is awful, and to create something like this that I didn't know would be so powerful as a tool in this present day and how we're making history, how we're showing up in these times, it's really cool.
And it's also to be able to provide, it's like you said, 4 phrases in one short thing that people feel is the gut of where they're coming from, the soundtrack to something they experienced when they have been fighting against ICE. And, we're in a weird club, Chrissa, Minneapolis, Portland, Chicago, LA, right? Where when the Gestapo comes to your town, it is like something you sometimes can't articulate. And I think that you should be super proud that that song articulates to the core what so many of us felt being under occupation.
Absolutely. I just got done with an East Coast run of my tour as I'm developing my solo show. And being at JFK, being surrounded by ICE was so surreal to see in a public space like JFK Airport and seeing so many immigrants, everyone just trying to go about their day and they're just there. And the amount of fury that I felt going through this. And it's fascinating thinking like I'm doing a show right now. I'm traveling in and out of New York to do a show advocating for this, and to see ICE agents' presence it was so bizarre. These times are so weird. And my way of processing all of that right now is by making music, whether it's calling out the things we're all thinking about or turning it into a silly 90s style jingle or something that the gays will be bumping at the club, however that may be and however it wants to come out. That's kind of how I process all of this weird shit right now.
Well, you're really good at it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Chrissa, you lost a lot of income speaking out. Can you talk about losing brand endorsements just because of your more controversial takes? Like, I don't know, when did Diet Coke decides that your material is not appropriate, or whoever it was?
Yeah, that's a really great point. And this is something that I was kind of spiraling about as of late because I think I've been a content creator for about 15 years at this point, and I've always played to family-friendly brands and always advocating for even my own clothing business. I was always a billboard for my own art in that way. But in these last few years, making the decision to become a musical comedian and really leaning into that, and this past year in particular, I don't know what else to sing or talk about other than the world and everything that we're experiencing, and to come across, brand opportunities that come my way that I get passed on. I get a lot of like, you're perfect for the job, like you're exactly what we're looking for, but who we're working with, they're more apolitical and they're afraid of, taking a hard stance on anything. When it comes to brand opportunities, television opportunities, I've always been someone who's worked in the industry as an on-camera personality. And to be at this stage in my life, in my career, in my mid-30s now versus when I did it 10, 15 years ago, it is challenging. But I remember that I'm on the side of history that I would be so proud showing up for. And in these times where economically, I think we're all struggling, especially as artists and living in Los Angeles, it's kind of layered, you know? There was a part of me that felt, oh, not only is it rejection for a job, knowing that it's not my talent, but my morals and my values. And also, it stings this part of my psyche and my belief system that comes from my immigrant parents of like, you rock the boat. These are the consequences of speaking out and standing up for yourself, you know? So it's a lot of unpacking and layering, but I'm really proud of the work that I've done, and I know it'll align me with the right opportunities. But man, in this economy, it's really hard.
Being apolitical is such a bullshit take in this time. It's such a bullshit take.
Period.
I have something that I hope is helpful, because during the first Iraq war, I had the same transition as you. And I was like, I cannot talk about the complicity of our government bombing brown people. And I'm going to start talking about it. I'm going to talk about the media and how the media's role is in it. And I lost a shit ton of audience and I had to rebuild. But then, because I was so consistent and had such focus, I got asked to create The Daily Show. So guess what? Shit happens. And it's your patience and your commitment. And once people also see you're authentic, then the audience that you actually want to call comes to you. You probably know that, but I just wanted to let you know that happens and it's great. And I can't not let this moment go, because the fury that so many of us are feeling right now around you having a moral stance about, I don't know, maybe we don't steal children and families and harm them. Maybe that's a good thing to believe. Meanwhile, Louis C.K., who has his brand is brandishing his dick unasked for, is getting Netflix specials and selling out Madison Square Garden. And so many wonderful comics have spoken out about it. Like, that's got to be also a clip to the labia, because you're like, what?
Yeah, may we all have the caucasity of an unapologetic white man. Okay?
We can only dream, Chrissa. We can only dream.
And that is what being Delulu is all about.
While we're on the subject of caucasity, we really want to talk to you about this tone-deaf article from the New York Times that had our labia in a knot as well. And the article was like, oh, let's host a fun game night with mahjong, like missing any kind of cultural significance of the game, treating it as a decorating suggestions, the same way a stylist might, or I don't know, buy books to like be color coordinated with their paint. It was just like, oh, it's kicky. Oh, we have mahjong. What rosé goes with mahjong? Okay, we made that up, but so your song titled "It's Only Cool When White People Say It's Cool" is honestly the perfect response. So can you talk about the point that you wanted to make about this and the broader problem of appropriation?
You know, it's so funny. I saw these articles come up and I was like, I have to write a song about this. What is it going to be? I was literally eating a sandwich at 2:00 in the afternoon at a cafe, and I was playing with samples and I thought, yeah, it's only cool when white people say it's cool. Like, there's no other chic way or poetic way of saying it. That's just the reality of it, you know? Like, even as a Filipino woman, like how ube is trending now in Trader Joe's.
In Trader Joe's? Oh my God.
In Target, Starbucks. I mean, we've all seen that TikTok.
People have done these things for centuries, for generations, and they're just like, we discovered it yesterday. You may not know about ube.
Yeah. And you know, it's fascinating for me as, you know, as a first generation Filipino American, I grew up feeling so out of place and so awkward and so othered for bringing like lumpia and rice to school for lunch when that was so normal for my parents, and everyone else is eating really shitty LAUSD pizza, you know? I just think now of like, this is something that was so celebrated and normal in my household. Like, playing mahjong was just like, it was either mahjong or karaoke in a Filipino family party, okay? And to see these like Southern women,
right,
you know, just putting out these tutorials on TikTok of truly appropriating the art of mahjong and the practice of mahjong, it's really giving Martha Stewart living on the Food Network if she had a mahjong part of her show.
That's exactly right.
I'm like, who are these women? This is crazy.
It's cultural appropriation-maxxing.
Yes.
Yes. That's what the kids are saying now.
Yes. The whole thing is wild. And and you brought up Delulu, which is the name of the show that you're working on now. And I wanted to ask you, with the title, right? It's like you've had this awakening where you're like, you know what? This is just in my bones now, and this is how I am, and this is what I'm doing. And whenever a woman decides she gets to have an opinion and that her rage appropriate responses are often called what, everybody?
Delulu.
So I'm wondering if your title has something to do with the response to you deciding to be in the world and appropriately responding to it.
Thank you for bringing that up, Liz. It absolutely has evolved into that. And I've been working on this show for the last 2 years, I would say, but really in the last 6 months, it's really created this shift of not only from dating as a divorcee in my 30s to how am I
By
reconstructing?
the way, you look 14. We have to clear it up for people that your divorce, it was as an adult.
Asian don't raise in.
You aren't part of Swalwell's army.
Thank you. Thank you. I am a child bride. Yes. Yes. I'm so glad you noticed. Thank you so much.
It's hard to miss. So continue telling us about your show.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like Delulu has really evolved into reconstructing my identity and unlearning everything that I've learned from my childhood. When I was delusional about my career, about my love life and my marriage, and now being delusional about pursuing a career and using my voice. And that is something that is genetically not wired within me because, again, as I've mentioned, I think my ancestors have been so afraid to use their voice and to stand up, especially women in my lineage. And that is something I really tackle in my show of how I'm finding my voice in these times and learning to be unapologetic as someone who's grown up as a chronic people pleaser. And it's been a really interesting but powerful journey to go on to kind of unpack these layers. It's like a blooming onion. It's the gift that keeps on giving, unpacking these layers of being able to unapologetically be myself and to use my voice. And ultimately, I want people to walk away from the show to feel seen in their struggles and to feel heard and to commiserate. And at the same time, encourage people to be activists in their own way, however that looks like. There's no one size fits all to activism. And if my way is to make hyper pop, girly pop kind of music that people can bump at the club and resist at the same time, so be it. I'm so happy to be doing it and sharing this story as it continues to grow as I develop it.
And we're happy to hear it. We love it. We are so excited. We are happy to hear it. I was excited to hear that this is the anthem of Minneapolis when they were dealing with the occupation. You continue doing incredible work. And can you tell our people where to find you and all the ways that they can support you in the work that you do?
Yes, thank you. So you can find me on Instagram at Chrissa Sparkles. And if you want to find out more information about my tour dates, I'm going to be touring throughout the year. You can find me on my website, chrissasparkles.com. And you can also stream my music on all platforms. You can purchase my music on Bandcamp. All that information is on my Instagram and at my website. And I just want to thank you both so much for the work that you do and to spread awareness and uplifting other women and queer people in the community in these times, because it can feel like this rabbit hole of darkness and anxiety. And to know that we have community and we have each other in these times is what helps us push through. So thank you both for the work that you do to uplift all of us.
Oh, you're so sweet. I always feel it's important, especially because that rabbit hole, our issues get lost. The media chooses the shiny objects. And meanwhile, the oppression train is chugging along down all the tracks in all of the areas with which you spoke, whether it's abortion, LGBTQ rights, all of it. And so to make sure that people know, A, this is what's happening, B, this is what you can do about it is super important. So I think thanks all around to everybody, because I think we're all doing the best and we're doing the most. And hopefully we'll get to see you the next time you're in New York, because your show is amazing. If you get to Minneapolis also, make sure I know, because I know you would sell out. So absolutely great. Thank you, Chrissa.
Thank you, Chrissa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's our show, y'all. Thanks for listening.
Woohoo!
I know, right? It went so long. It was a lot of dark. But thanks again to Dr. April Lockley. And utilize the hotline. Go to the hotline and donate to the hotline at mahotline.org/donate.
Did we make you smarter?
Yes.
Did we make you laugh today?
Yes.
Well, then we're back here. You can show us some love. You have so many options. You can like, subscribe, and give us a 5-star rating. And if you really want to just go in and get the extra brownie points, why don't you join our Patreon? What's holding you back? Why don't you join our Patreon?
What are you doing?
You'll support great content. You'll get merch, and it's fucking cool, and experiences with us. All of the pledges support this pod, and it supports every single thing we do and all of our activism at Abortion Access Front. So you can pledge at patreon.com/Feminist Buzzkills.
That's right. And, every single day, Abortion Access Front brings the news and info on our social media. So connect with us at Abortion Front across all platforms. As Moji likes to say, even Blue Sky. We're even on Blue Sky.
I said that once, Liz. I said that once.
We're also on Substack. So you can find our Substacks too. So, we just want to spread the word as much as we can, and not just give you information, but also give you things to do so you can actually feel like there's hope and that you can be part of the solution. So do it. Follow us at Abortion Front.
And another thing you can do is check out our awesome Operation Save Abortion training. We have them, they live at operationsaveabortion.com. And if you go there, you can get an abortion activist glow up and learn about all of the many, many, many ways and all the areas that abortion providers and patients need your help.
They do. It's like there's so few left, and they have such a hard patient load, and just the needs keep coming. And what's great is while you're there, we have a really great activist calendar. So you can poke around the calendar. You can do pull downs of where you live. You can look for national and local actions where you are, maybe some educational opportunities. So you can dive right in and take some charge, either in your area or nationally. So again, that's operationsaveabortion.com. Do it.
Maybe you want more ways to get involved. Maybe we've given you all these options and you just want to do more. One of the other things you can do is sign up to volunteer. We really need you. Clinics need you. We need you. You can go to our website, aafront.org. There's a volunteer form that you can fill out, and we can just figure out together all the ways that you want to get involved.
That's right. We are dark next week because we are planning for Netroots Nation. But when we are back the following week, we have some stellar guests. Lupe Rodriguez from the National Latina Institute for Reproductive Justice joins us to talk about the work they're doing in the intersections of reproductive justice and immigration.
We also are going to be joined by comedian Max Higgins, and they're going to talk about his solo show, The Underdog, and his coming of age as a queer person of color.
I'm excited about that show.
I'm super excited to talk to both of them, actually.
I know, same here. And lastly, we have to give our flowers to our amazing team. The Feminist Buzzkills podcast is edited and produced by Remy DeTournay and Jin Moon for Abortion Access Front. And to leave you, why not go out with a little Chrissa sparkles?
When white people say it's cool,
Like mahjong is becoming this beautiful way of hosting.
yeah, it's only cool. When white people say it's cool.
Okay, so Starbucks just came out with a new drink, and it has boob in it.
Appropriate me, baby. Yeah, you can call me crazy, but you will never pay me. Yeah, it's only cool when white people say it's cool.
Feminist Buzzkills, the podcast from Abortion Access Front. New episodes drop Friday. When BS is poppin', we pop off. And if you want to support our podcast and all the work of Abortion Access Front, like, subscribe, and join our Patreon at patreon.com/feministbuzzkills.